Welcome back to Soul Speak. In today's episode, we'll talk about how to lead as a healthy parent. And you can even translate that, if you're not a parent, into any other leadership role in your life. Hi, welcome back to Soul Speak. I'm Meg Michaelson. Thank you for being here. Whether this is the first one, thank you for giving this a try, or I believe I've done 71. So thank you for being part of this community. Thank you for sharing, liking. It really honestly does make a difference. If you're not a YouTube follower, I'm going to ask you if you'll follow me on YouTube as well. So in today's episode, I want to continue a conversation that we had quite a while ago about a healthy parent, being a healthy parent. And it's a lifelong journey. So when I'm giving this information over a 20 or 30-minute time frame, it's not all the ways to be a healthy parent. It's just to remind ourselves there are so many ways we can look at how we're doing something. And we're never going to be perfect. I'm never going to be a perfect parent. But how we are translating our parenting into the rest of our life, everything starts within our being. So if I'm healthy within how I talk to myself, I'm going to be healthier how I talk to others. But if I'm really stringent and forceful and expect myself to do everything just right and hold myself in perfect erect alignment, be that way with others as well. As does that concept of it takes a village. We've all heard it takes a village, and that's in reference to raising a child. I think it's in reference in how we live, whether or not, again, we're a parent. We live in a world where we are really reliant and connected with each other. Even if we might think we don't need anyone, because there are people that say they don't need anyone. However, who grows the food you buy in the grocery store? Who picks up our trash? Who's teaching our children? There are so many people we are reliant on. If we have roommates, who are our roommates? And all of that is that village concept. We don't live in isolation. We never will. Living and understanding and embracing that it takes a village to raise a healthy being, ourselves, and also to raise our children or our companies, our neighborhoods. That creates a much healthier network for a healthier, more balanced life. And if we allow ourselves to learn to partner with these other people, those people in our village, and not be in combat with them when things go wrong, when we feel like something was slighted and we didn't get what we expected or someone didn't do what we wanted them to do. But go into it again as partnerships, not as competition or combat. And we can be in that phase and not even know it. And that's maybe how we're leading our children. It creates a much healthier environment in ourselves and our homes and our families if we are solution oriented, if we look at those people in our lives at all capacity as our village. And some people we might not even like, but they're still part of our village. So looking at life in that way, solution oriented, connecting, working through problems that way in our home, our neighborhood, our work, and of course the family. And a healthier leader, a healthier parent is not feeling isolated when we recognize all the other beings we rely on to create our daily life experiences. And we can, of course, do this blindly or do this in that space of ignoring it, or we can do this with mindfulness. A healthier leader parent connects and leans on others intentionally with mindfulness in a balanced way. That being said, one thing I believe a healthy parent needs to run a healthy family system is a chore chart. Create it, make it fun. And if you're not having fun, try to have fun with the chore chart. Bring in the input of others, allowing chore charts, and then, of course, allowing the mistakes that come with those chore charts. Just like at work, at work, our jobs are defined. What about at home? Others know what the expectations are. It's much less chaotic. It is much less chaotic when we understand what the expectations are of us in our job and also in our home as children with families, right? Or as roommates. Doesn't mean, of course, like I said, it's always going to get done. Yet the world is not going to end if a chore isn't done. And sometimes we can get so angry when our child or our partner or our roommate did not do what they were supposed to do. And then we got to back up. Is it really about the disappointment of that chore not being done? Or is it that we felt disrespected because of an old abandonment issue? Maybe it's time for us to work through. Check in when things aren't going smoothly. And of course, that chore chart, we're paid at work, so maybe we tie allowances into it. Whatever, there's a million ways you can get creative with getting things done at home so it's not all relying on the parents' shoulders, because that's not real life. And we want to model a healthy living system in our home, just like we would have at work or at school. And if we're creating a healthy family system, that helps kids understand why it's important to have everyone help and what the consequences are when that doesn't happen, when we don't get the garbage out on time and the trash collector comes and now we've got overload of garbage and it stinks in the garage. Whatever it is, there's consequences, right? Yet we can do it without blowing our top because we created a healthier system, which can always be created. It doesn't have to be, well, I've done it this way and now I can't go back. No, it doesn't matter how old our kids are. We can always shift that. And another thing with that piece of the chores and getting those duties done is also allow time for relaxation for parents too. Now, I remember growing up, I was in a family of 10 children, 2 parents. And my mom, at the end of the day, she really liked to sit and read a book. She was an avid reader and she would like a cup of tea. And sometimes she would call one of us, because we had 2 phone lines, because there were so many of us, to go ask. She'd say, "Could you make me a cup of tea?" And of course, the kid would be like, "Really? Do I have to do it?" But I'm the one that answers the phone, so I do. Yet good for her for asking. Good for her for sending one of the kids down, because we didn't know at that point how much work she did. Now, as a parent, oh my gosh, do I know how much work she did? And I only had 5 kids, not 10. So just to look at, allow the parent to relax, allow the kids to maybe make meals or get your tea or make you a piece of toast, and then allow our kids to relax sometimes too. It's important. Relaxation is living a balanced life. Too much responsibility, too many activities, too many comings and goings. That's hard on ourselves. It's hard on our bodies and it's hard on our kids. So we want to allow that time and space of quiet. Another thing I see so often, and I certainly did this myself, is not allowing our kids to be kids. When you have more than one, you have a firstborn. And once you have the second one, that firstborn becomes like 10 years older, even though they maybe are only 2 years older or 5 years older, because all of a sudden you see a difference between that 5-year-old and that 3-year-old, and you expect that 5-year-old to really be acting like a 10-year-old. Seen it time and time again. And I did that myself with my firstborn. And we want to be careful in that same vein, even if we only have one kid, to not compare our kids to other kids. Well, look what that kid is doing. Now, I just had 2 grandbabies born last March, so they're almost a year old, and they're so different. They're 10 months. I was just out visiting them, and you can't compare them to each other. One's excelling in one way and one's excelling in another. And wow, how beautiful it is to celebrate those differences. It's so easy to compare our children to each other, our cousins to each other, our friends' kids to our kids. Yet we want to allow them to be who they are and allow them to be children. Not expect more because someone's older, but expect what's right for that age. So, we can do research easy now with Google, or so many books out there on parenting. What should we expect from a 10-year-old? What should we expect from a 5-year-old? And try to get that knowledge, because then we are really being realistic with what our expectations are. Also, when we're parenting, remember to catch them doing the good things. So when we're building the chore chart and we're having these expectations, compliment them. Hey, thanks for putting your things in the dishwasher. Complimenting with honesty, however. We can be overly complimentary, and yet we want to ask them how they feel about something. So maybe when they had a project at home or at school and they did something, instead of gushing about it, ask them what they did. What did they like they did? How did they feel about their result? Ask those questions and then give them honest feedback. I always like to start with something positive. And of course, I'm human, so I don't do this 100%. But when we start with something positive, wow, I love the color you chose. Be detailed oriented with it, right? Go to the nitty gritty instead of, hey, that project looks great. Let's get in the car. How about, tell me about that. Why did you choose that color? I like that color and I'm just curious. And ask nitty gritty so they really can understand that you're interested. That's how we can start to really compliment because we're engaged. It's way different than just saying, you look great today. What about it? What about it? Go into more depth with our kids when we're complimenting them. And of course, sometimes we have to say something that's not a compliment. We can do it with kindness, however. And if we want our kids to take risks, we have to allow fear. I have done a lot in my lifetime. My life has been unusual. And I still, of course, have fear. I acknowledge I'm uncomfortable with some of the things I'm still taking on because I don't know everything because I have to rely on people. Same with our kids. Let them have their feelings. Try not to tell them there is nothing to be afraid of. Let them have it. Like when they're giving a speech at school, I think all kids, all high schoolers have to give a speech. And on that day, let them feel the fear. Try not to say, well, there's nothing to be afraid of, you'll do fine. Because now we're making them suck their feelings. Of course they get to be afraid. I'm still afraid sometimes when I'm trying something new. Acknowledge the fear. Wow, you know what? I wonder if you're feeling fear because sometimes when I'm doing something new, I feel fear. Or they say, because they trust you, because you built a relationship, I'm really nervous about this. I totally get that. I used to have that feeling, or sometimes I still do. And we get to have courage. And part of courage is feeling fear. And then we get to enjoy the experience of, even if we didn't do perfect, we get to enjoy the experience of moving through something that we were afraid to do. That brings a level of internal success, self-esteem building, because we did it. Courage does not mean we don't have fear, remember. We have fear. Fear is part of life. And every time we are doing something out of our comfort zone, there is a little fear. We can relax the body and connect with ourselves when we feel fear. We want to do that because we don't want to get too rigid because that's so hard on our physical body. And then it's easier to blunder. But when we allow ourselves, okay, I'm feeling fear around this, that's normal, but I'm not going to let the fear stop me, but I'm still going to feel the fear. And I'm going to inhale and exhale. I'm going to relax my body by inhaling, lifting my shoulders gently up to my ears, letting them drop down with the exhale. And we even have fear, and often have fear, when our kids disagree with us. That can be really scary and shake us. Look back. When you were a kid, did you always agree with your parent? I know I didn't. Did you agree with everything they said that you should do and everything they believed? No, I didn't. And I'm sure you didn't either if you're honest with yourself. When I was a younger parent, it scared me when my kids did not agree with the wisdom I shared with them, with my opinion, with my 2 cents and how I thought the world was supposed to be. Because back then I thought I was right and I knew how the world was supposed to be. I knew what we were supposed to do. Learned a lot as I've grown up. And so we want to be mindful of allowing our kids to have their own views and their own feelings and not feeling like they're going to be failures if they're not subscribing to all the things that we're telling them they need to subscribe to, because really, we don't know. When our kids have their own minds, it is uncomfortable. It is, as a parent. It's uncomfortable if you're a boss at work. It's uncomfortable if you have a friend sometimes that has a different opinion than you. But that's part of building our self-esteem, letting people have their own minds. We just want to be careful that we don't jump right to the worst. Remember last week I talked about how fast our mind is, and we don't even know that we've jumped so far into the future. Letting ourselves be uncomfortable when someone, even our children, has a different opinion. We are hopefully raising strong, empowered beings, and empowered beings develop their own belief system. Let's give them room to get there. That doesn't mean we're giving them room to be disrespectful to us and to others and be criminals. We're just allowing them room to develop their own way of thinking. I want to piggyback on that. with the risk taking, healthy risk taking. If we're always telling our kids what they should and shouldn't believe, it's going to be very hard for them to be healthy risk takers. They're going to be looking over their shoulder a lot. They're going to be checking in. Should I do this? Should I not do that? We want to try not to push our kids to do the things we wish we would have done. No, I wanted to be a gymnast. Well, I don't push my kids to be a gymnast. I just wasn't a gymnast. But whatever their thing is, let them have their own thing and let them really experience it with, of course, healthy guidelines, right? But we don't want to live vicariously through our children and make them take the dance class or become a football player or a hockey player because we love it so much. When we do that, we're not allowing our kids to develop their own healthy self-esteem because it gets tricky because some kids are pleasers. They don't want to upset us. They want to please us. And so they'll want to do what we want them to do it, but maybe they really don't. And then they might get frustrated and really not like what they're doing. So be careful with the risk taking. Let it be something you help them develop that they want to do, not that we think they should do. And when we learn how to work through conflict and begin to listen to our kids, we will know their dreams because they will feel safe enough to share that with us. Another way to really develop that healthy parent or leader is to allow time. We don't have to solve all the conflict in one day. Try not to feel the pressure of everything has to be solved at this moment. Some challenges need more space to be resolved. One of my kids likes to talk things through right away. Another one of my kids sometimes needs a few days because they internally process. And either is okay. And we want to get to the point where we don't feel threatened if a conflict is not resolved in a day. Because remember, we're parenting lifelong. We're not parenting just for 5 years or 10 years or even 18 years. We parent, hopefully, when they go off to college. And as we're learning how to parent differently and more healthfully, we can help them even as they are parents. Even if we messed it all up until they become parents and we've learned differently, we can now parent differently. That means we have to allow feelings. We want to understand that we will have many emotions and be up and down, and some days great and some days not. Our kids have the same. They get to have as many emotions as we have, and we do not have to take their emotions so personally. It's not always about us if they're crabby. Also leading them to understand that happiness is really a place within. We can choose to access it whenever we want. When we're seeking things outside of self to find love, to find joy, to find fulfillment, yes, of course, because we are striving to grow. However, if that's our only access, if that's the only path to happiness, to contentment, to peace, we're going to end up empty. It's not sustainable. It might cause us to feel lonely when we're not getting that outside acquisition. Those feelings, those happy feelings, those peaceful feelings are always within us. They're always free. They're right here. So when our kids feel, let them feel. Let them understand that the emotional part of life is a journey. And we want to work through those emotions, allow space for those emotions so we can get into the peace point that is within. And when we're angry at them, when they're crabby, or trying too hard to fix it when they're not happy, it's really important to let them have that space and time. Pull back, recognize that we're feeling uncomfortable, and then give them the time and space they need to get back to that space. Doesn't mean we ignore, doesn't mean we can let them sit in their room for days. Remember, this is just a small snippet of what parenting is. So allowing the time and space in a healthy way, which means kids need a safe space. We need a safe space in our home with how we treat our children. Absolutely. We also need a physical safe space. I grew up with, like I told you, 10 kids. We all shared bedrooms. With my parents' bedroom, after their room, there was still 4 that 10 children shared. So there was one point where I had 2 sisters in my room. And then when I was later in high school, I got to have my own room. However, during all those years, we need to have a safe space where we can be alone. And sometimes I could go outside and find my safe space in the trees. I loved that. And where do you let your kids have their safe space? Where is your safe space? Everybody needs a place of solitude. It doesn't mean they need their own room. If that's not a viable option, that's okay. Because oftentimes, if they're going to go away, they have to share a space. So sharing a space isn't the end of the world. But maybe they get to have their bedroom alone for a few minutes, or maybe they can sit in the bathroom for a few minutes, or maybe there's a hallway, or it's okay for them to go to the garage, whatever it is. Let them have a space that they can be alone for a little bit. Just understand that all humans need alone time. And it can even be in the same room with you, and you just let them be in their bubble. So we can work with whatever it is, as long as we understand people need to have a little bit of quiet. And like I said before, that means allowing the time and the space, and also allowing that state of being. Yes, relaxation, but also extend that to that state of being when there's a disappointment. After something ends, like they didn't get the job they wanted, or they didn't get the grade they wanted, or maybe they broke up with their boyfriend or their girlfriend. Maybe they had a failure, whatever that means to them. We want to be careful that we don't try to rush in and make it better. We want to be acknowledging that they get to have that space to feel kind of junky for a little bit. Let them feel so they can heal. Otherwise, we continue to feel like we have to fix it for them all the time. And then they feel like they have to fix it. But instead, those 4 stages or 5 stages of grief, maybe that's a day, maybe that's a year, who knows? But we want to be careful that we're not pushing that away because we're uncomfortable, because we're feeling they're uncomfortable. Everything doesn't work out all the time. That's not real. So let's be mindful of that. Let's be mindful that it's okay that things don't work out. Nothing has to always be just perfect, because that's not ever going to be real life. We want to teach our children by modeling that it is absolutely okay to feel like something didn't go well. And then after we have that time, now what do we want to do about it? What did we learn from it? That's what we can guide them through. That happened. That didn't feel like a success for whatever reason. What did we learn from that? And as we live that way, it's much easier to model it. Stop fixing, start breathing. Tune into our feelings with our breath. And then we can allow our kids to tune into their feelings with their breath. Because remember, the more we step in to fix, because those feelings are uncomfortable, the more dependent our children become. And yes, we want to create a village, so they are also dependent on people, but we want to remind them that they can find their own within. Remember, that's where true peace comes from. It doesn't mean we don't help. We're talking about balance. And then we're teaching them that they can create a safe container everywhere they go, because we're allowing them that time and space to process. And in that same vein of creating a safe container, conflict is part of life, right? So if we messed up and we yelled at our kid, or if they yelled at us, or if there's some conflict to resolve, we can resolve it after the fact, remember. It doesn't have to be done in a nanosecond, like I said earlier. But then once the conflict happens, whether it's an internal conflict or a conflict between 2 people or 10 people, let that sit. And then now let's build a plan. After we've had a conflict, what changes can we make for next time? We will have some families have a fire safety plan, right? Or an emergency plan. But what about a conflict resolution plan? This can include timeouts, and I don't mean punishment timeout, but a nurturing timeout. Maybe if 2 people are arguing, they decide ahead of time, if this is our pattern and we're trying to break it as a parent-child, because there's a lot of parent and children that argue, especially once those teen years hit, especially if the parent has not learned how to have a healthy conflict resolution skill. Still can, though, remember. Step away. Maybe we decide ahead of time, for next time when we have that conflict, let's really let ourselves step away for a few moments. and then we can get back together. And in order to have healthy conflict resolution, we have to have a support system. Remember, it takes a village. Allow support. Don't be threatened by aunts, uncles, friends, teachers, therapists, even our friends. Let other people be part of their healing network. Let other people be part of their wisdom circle. Maybe even if you're divorced and the stepmom or stepdad of your child is a healthy parent, it's easy to be threatened because we want to be liked best. However, that's not healthy. So let that village be created by other adults as well. And who is your support system? We all need one. Remember, modeling for kids is much healthier than telling their kids and then us not living that. We want to model. So we all need a healthy support system that helps us see clearly. My friend Suzanne and I still reach out to each other when we're having challenges as parents. Why? Because we do not allow ourselves to sit in victim. We don't commiserate and say, oh, woe is me. We support each other with love and truth and kindness. And that is how we really create a healthy village. And in building relationships and being a healthy leader, a healthy parent, so important to have fun. Have fun with your own life and have fun with your children. Sometimes we're too serious as parents, and they only get that parent that is telling them what to do all the time. But what about showing them that they can laugh with us? Play tag, build snowmen, go sledding, watch funny shows, have fun with our children so they can see that we're not always so serious. We can get so stuck in being the taskmaster. Yes, tasks are important, and so is a balanced living that includes fun. That's part of building a healthy relationship. And if you have a relationship in your home, aside from being a parent, if you have a spouse or a partner, build a healthy relationship there. That's key. The biggest gift we can give our children is modeling a healthy adult relationship outside of your relationship as a parent. Even if that partner or even a friend doesn't live with you, let them see healthy relationships. It's about showing them the way. And when we are respecting self and having healthy relationships and modeling that, they get it too. If you're really working on your parenting skills and creating a healthy relationship with your kid, they're seeing if you're not working on a healthy relationship with their other parent or your partner, they're seeing that. And we want to really model healthy relationships because it's so much more important to have two parents have a healthy relationship, right? Then it trickles down. Everything trickles down from first within, second with our partner, third with our children. More than anything else, we need to be tuned in to what's going on within. More than anything else, we want to build a healthy relationship with ourselves so we can be a healthy parent, so we can be a healthy leader. When we allow ourselves to live with more calm and less reactivity within, we will absolutely live with more calm and less reactivity with our children. And that creates such a beautiful bubble in our home. And remember, we can take any of these points and bring them into the rest of our lives, our friendships, our family of origin, our workplace, because it all starts within. So if we want to be a healthy parent, we have to be a healthy person. And as always, it is a process. Have a beautiful week. Be kind to yourself and do some things that are fun. Thanks for being here. Hey, listeners, thank you so much for being part of the Soul Speak world. I really appreciate that. And if you're willing, and if you find this of value, would you please follow on any of the platforms you're listening to, whether that's Apple or Spotify or Google or any of the platforms. And of course, I love the ratings if you find this valuable. You can also follow me on YouTube and like and share. And all of that really makes a difference. Appreciate your participation. And of course, I really appreciate you being part of this world.